You mentioned a lot of names there. Who was your probably toughest opponent, skill wise, talent wise? Was there anyone that just really stood out in that aspect?
Yeah, like the Gooch, Marta Gooch in '09, All Ireland semi final in '09. He's probably the most well known. But I always say it to the same people that Marta, a lot of good players that people would forget about, like Paddy Bradley, Colin McFadden, all them guys, really good players. Paul Kerrigan, Cork, like so many good footballers. Alan Brogan. But I would say that Andy Moran, I've said it before, you probably heard it, Andy was
Mm.
just very strong, really, really good movement, never stopped moving, which was annoying for me. Like most guys would stop, to give you a breather for a second. He'd just
Yeah.
keep walking around the place, and he was always talking. He was shouting at boys, putting hand up, being really positive, really, really
Yeah.
positive. Even if they were having a stinker, or if he was having a stinker himself, he would keep. Again, that was getting into my head probably all the time. He'd be like, "Brilliant, Joycey," or whatever. "That's great work. Brilliant. Keep it going." And he was walking around, and then his movement, he'd be able to give you a shove. So
Yeah.
Andy Moran was a handful. He was a handful.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, there was David Kelly from Sligo was probably one of the quickest guys I marked. He was bloody lightning. But yeah, a lot of good, a lot of different players. So it was always pressure when you're in cornerback. It was always
Yeah.
pressure.
That's it. With his movement, then, out of interest, I'm a forward, so I'm trying to take as much as I can from his game. What does like is he just walking around? Like, is he kind of pacing, kind of maybe not from the end line, but from the 14 to 21? Is that kind, or is he just not aimlessly walking? But I'm sure he's walking with a purpose or moving with a purpose.
Yeah, moving with a purpose. Like I said, way quicker lads. And I'm now, Jesus, he wasn't slow,
Yeah.
but he always made the ball stick as well.
Mm.
Sometimes when the ball would be kicked into corner forward, you might get a little finger, or you might just flick it away from him. He always made that ball stick,
Mm.
and he'd pop it off to a runner coming through. Yeah, he started in fairly deep, and wide. Like he'd be, like he'd be right at the end line sometimes, and a lot of the time he mightn't veer outside the 21. So, but
Okay.
he was probably directed to do that. Like
Yeah.
one guy might float out a little bit further, and then they'd constantly be chopping and changing. But no, his runs were just very intelligent,
Mm-hmm.
and he was very, very strong. He was able to try and sometimes when he'd make the initial run, he'd give me a little nudge, and he'd be gone.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
and he was very, very, very strong. Yeah, but his very positive as well in his talking to his teammates, which I found fascinating. I was sometimes in your cornerback, you're so focused on marking that it's hard to see everything going on. But I do remember him being really vocal in a positive way, which was cool.